Welcome to Mission Imperfect, the podcast about finding your own path, your own way, and embracing the imperfection of the journey.
We're your hosts, life coaches, former HR professionals, and mums, Kirsty and Catherine.
We love to discuss the topics that come up time and time again for our coaching clients and which affect us all, from things like acceptance and boundaries to values and well-being and everything in between.
Each episode ends with a question for you and us to reflect on. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to grab a cuppa and a biscuit and join us in getting lost in finding ourselves. Hello and welcome to Mission Imperfect. This week's topic is one that we hear a lot about, but how often do we really think about it properly? And that is gratitude. So for you, Catherine, what is gratitude?
Well, you're right. It is one of these things we hear, isn't it? And when I do hear about it, I think, oh, that makes so much sense, but it's not necessarily something I actively practice. So I thought let's talk a bit about it today. But as we always do, let's start with that definition. So I found this one, and I thought this was interesting. It said the quality of being thankful, readiness to show appreciation for, and to return kindness. And I thought the return bit was interesting because we've often talked about this idea of what we pay attention to grows, doesn't it?
Mm.
If you're looking for, you want to buy a red car, suddenly all you see are red cars. And I
Mhm.
thought, is that also true for something abstract like gratitude? That if we show appreciation, do we get more appreciation back? I thought that was really interesting.
Oh, that's an interesting idea, isn't it? Yeah. Maybe become more aware of other people's gratitude for you and what you do. And they'd be, I hadn't thought of it in that light before.
No, no, me neither. It'd be interesting. Perhaps we should conduct a bit of an experiment, see what happens.
So we better give a bit more thought to actually being grateful then before we can do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing of our minds giving us more what we focus on, I think that is true, except possibly with yellow cars. You don't see many yellow cars. That was always our game in the on a long journey was spot the yellow car, but I ain't getting
Yeah,
distracted.
red's too obvious. Yeah.
Um, and that ability to sort of seek out something good and raise awareness of the positives can be so powerful. And just to be clear, we said this before, but it's never about denying the dark. You know, if things are shitty, they're shitty. No amount of said with gratitude is going to change that something shit is happening to you. It's not about denying the dark, it's choosing to look for stars in the dark. And another thing I think around gratitude is, I mean, I came across a quote from Joseph Stalin, and he said that gratitude is a sickness suffered by dogs, which made me sort
Yeah.
of go, what? Um,
No, me too. I did see that one because obviously we look for quotes for
yeah,
our quotes section, but I thought I don't really know how to include that one. What I'm really
it,
trying to say about it.
it makes you sit up and take notice, doesn't it? But my take on that is that um, he's talking about the kind of gratitude that the oppressed might feel or are expected to feel for handouts from the privileged.
Mm.
Putting a very sort of political, socio-economic slant on that. And that's not the kind of gratitude we're talking about. It doesn't, being grateful for good things in your life doesn't mean that your situation is fair or that you're not allowed to want more. But it can be really beneficial to you as an individual dealing with whatever life is throwing at you, or indeed whatever life is withholding from you.
Yeah, totally agree. It shouldn't be like anything we talk about. It shouldn't be done as a meaningless tick box. And now what? What will this now mean for me? I've done these things. Why am I not getting it back?
Yeah.
Because it's not meaning anything. And certainly you don't want it to be forced. But as you rightly said, Cassie, it's not about denying some of the bad stuff. It's just that perhaps are some good things in amongst it that we can overlook because we just see dark instead of perhaps some of the little pearls of light in there as well. And one of
Mm.
the things I read about, which I found so interesting, is I mean, there are many advocates for practicing gratitude, something I mentioned at the start, as a possibly even a daily practice. And I thought, okay, so why should we consider doing this? And apparently the benefits are many. So some of them you think, okay, that's kind of logical, but actually they are more far reaching than perhaps I thought. So yes, they can give your mood a boost. And that kind of makes sense because you're kind of recalling positive things or thinking about things that you are literally grateful for being in your life. But over time, there are longer term effects as well. So it can lower your stress and anxiety because it's
Mhm.
shifting
Yeah.
your focus into a positive direction. Like we said, not focusing on the dark stuff, trying to find the lighter things. It can boost your self esteem and worthiness because you're thinking
Oh,
about good things that have come your way. I thought that was really interesting. Um, and it can have even physical effects as well, such as better sleep, lower blood pressure, and even a positively impacted immune system, which I thought, wow, that's really
okay.
interesting.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
whole mind body link. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. It can strengthen relationships because if you think about it, one of the things we're probably often really grateful for are other people. They are sources of gratitude in our lives, and yeah, and it can help us cope with the less than rosy stuff going on. So it can perhaps build and boost our resilience, which is something we have spoken about before.
Mm.
So I thought, okay, that's quite a decent list
It
of
is, isn't it?
positive
Mm.
reasons to consider doing this.
Yeah, if somebody handed you a pill and said it could do all that, you'd be taking it, right?
Yes, yes, exactly. Exactly. And yeah, I think can it feel a bit trite? You don't want it to
Yes.
be just a like, oh, I am grateful for the roof over my head and the food on my plate, like a kind of rushed platitude, tick the box and move on. That's probably not really going to cut it. All those benefits we've just mentioned, I
Yeah.
can't really see that happening if you just kind of quickly draw upon something that's not that meaningful. It's not
Mm.
really the practice that they're probably talking about. And it's not just a sort of generic thank you either, just sort of waking up and saying thank you for today and then moving on. Because really, what are you thankful for? And I think the idea from the reading that I've done is try and make it specific and try and make it personal and meaningful to you. And there's no right or wrong in this,
No.
but it's like a lot of things we talk about, isn't it, Kirsty? So it only really matters if it matters to you, and it can be meaningful to you and not to someone else, and that's okay. But that's how it's most likely to have the most benefit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when somebody says, "Oh, you should be grateful," or whatever, how likely are you to actually feel grateful? You don't, do you? And I
Yes,
think this,
you do.
you know, you immediately start looking, or if you're as argumentative as I am, you immediately start looking for the reasons why you shouldn't be grateful. Um,
Yes,
and I think that can happen when you do it as a tick box exercise in your own mind as well. If you're telling yourself to be grateful, there's going to be a part of you that's going, "No, I shouldn't." So your inner sulky teenager is going to be going, "No, you're
yeah,
not the best
exactly.
of all." Um, or is that just me? Anyone else got a sulky an inner
Oh
sulky
yeah, oh
teenager
no,
or a sulky inner teenager?
100%.
The other, yeah. Um, but I think what can be really helpful with gratitude is to consider that the thing that you're saying you're grateful for, what does it actually do for you?
Mm,
So if you're thinking about the roof over your head, what feeling do you get from having that roof over your head? What does it really do for you? Are you grateful for being warm? Are you grateful for the things you have? Are you grateful for the safety, the sense of safety and security you might have? Are you grateful for the people under it, for the love that comes with it? It's more about just a roof over your head. And
yeah,
maybe thinking in the kind of the negative, how life would be if you didn't have it. I'm
yeah,
grateful I'm
that's a
not
really good
sleeping on the
point.
street tonight.
Yeah.
Um,
It's often
that,
not the physical thing, is it? It's more about what feelings and emotions it draws out of you, whether it's like safety and comfort and love and connection, all those things. And yeah, the flip side of those is if you didn't have all of those things, what kind of feelings would you be experiencing? And no doubt you would feel extremely grateful if you
mm,
lost it completely and then got it back. You'd think, oh my God, I now know how perhaps I took that
yeah.
for granted. Because let's be honest, it is easy to take certain things for granted. And we're going to come on and talk a bit about what we're grateful for at the end of the episode.
Mhm.
But I thought a really obvious thing to think about, and we often don't, is something as simple as like our health. for example,
Oh, yes.
because I think if you're in reasonable health, niggles aside, you
Middle
just
age.
kind of you just kind of assume you don't really think about it, do you? You just go about your day as per usual. But it's when you're in poor health or you're experiencing some really bad symptoms or something, and you really notice how much you value the health when you do have it. And I'm not saying that's an easy thing to say I'm really grateful for every day on a daily basis, because we do sort of take it a little bit for granted. But it was a
Yes.
little bit eye opening. It's made me think of how much wider I could think about this term of gratitude, and what for and why, I think.
Yes. There is so much, and I think we do take a lot for granted because I think we would all recognize, or the vast majority in this country would recognize that they are very, very lucky in material terms compared to those living in what sort of the UN and the World Bank would define as poverty. I think it's something like, is it $8 a week or something crazy?
Yeah, we spoke about that, didn't we, in
Yeah,
another episode? Perhaps it was about the money episode that we did, about
that's it.
how
Yeah.
much wealth there is in such a small proportion of the
Mm.
world, and we lose sight of all of that. And it's normal to do so. You are preoccupied with what's going on in your immediate sphere, aren't you? But it
Yeah.
does mean you kind of lose perspective of the bigger picture.
Yeah. We all have our own normality, and that's fine. But
Mm.
why not occasionally just take a step back from that? What if this wasn't my normality? We do it a lot in terms of thinking of how things could be better for us. But what if they were worse? And neither is the better option. But if you're doing both, that achieves you some balance. You don't have to be utterly miserable and pissed off because of you haven't got as much as you want. If you're also able to recognize that you've got more than you might otherwise have, it doesn't stop you wanting more. It doesn't stop you going after more and getting more.
Yeah,
And that's not a problem. It's okay to want more, but you can also be grateful for what you have, and to really
yeah,
focus in on how it might be if you didn't have this normality is a useful tool, I think. And
yeah,
talking of useful tools, what can we do to have a gratitude practice, do you think?
yeah. Well, as you probably won't be surprised to hear, that there's not really hard and fast rules around it, which
We don't
which
like hard
suits
and
us
fast
well,
rules.
doesn't it, Kirsty? We
No.
don't really like rules. So, but yeah, so we've spoken about this idea of why it's good for us. We've acknowledged that there's quite a lot we can be grateful for in all our circumstances. So, what do we actually do with it? So, really, it's some kind of acknowledgement or awareness of what we're grateful for. So, I suppose you could do that in many different ways. You could just say it mindfully to yourself in your head. You could say it out loud if you wanted to take it a little step further. You could write it down just for you, like whether that's part of a normal journal that you might keep, or a diary, or even if you wanted to do a little gratitude
Mm.
journal so it sort of reminds you to do this practice. Or you could even write it down to share with someone. So, for example, if the thing you were grateful for was connected to another person, it could be a letter of gratitude to send to someone. Now,
Mm.
when I was looking into this topic, I found there was an experiment where they asked people to write a letter of gratitude to somebody, and they were saying about how the sort of positive knock-on effects for the person writing it as well as the recipient was quite profound. It's actually quite a nice thing to show your gratitude as well as be the recipient of it. So I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, I guess you could also do it in just sending people messages or a voice note or something, just out the
Yeah,
blue, saying,
yeah,
"Oh, don't think I've told you lately. I really appreciate you."
yeah,
And again, if you can make it something really specific as well, I really love how you do this, that, and the other for me. Would make it even more meaningful to the person receiving it.
yeah, exactly. I mean, if you can easily put the boot on the other foot, can't you? Think how nice it would be to receive something like that, and then you'll be the person delivering. I think it's one of those. What do they call it? I guess it's not really altruistic, is it? Because you're both getting something from it.
Nothing
That's
wrong with that.
no, no, actually, yeah. I wonder if that's the source of another episode there, Kirsty. Altruism, whether it really does exist or not.
Absolutely. I mean, we did an episode. I'm trying to remember whether we a title, but we did talk about selflessness. That was it, wasn't it?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes, we
Can you ever
did.
be truly selfless, or do you always get something from it?
Yes. See, there we
Mm.
go. I knew it was ringing a bell in there somewhere. There you go. So we have spoken about it a little bit. Okay, let's get back onto gratitude then. So we've said about how it can be the smaller things in life. We don't have to look for these big or grandiose things to be grateful for. So, for example, maybe you haven't recently been promoted or secured a big new contract, or feel like you've got this really big example to draw upon. But actually, why not just recognize and acknowledge the smaller things as
Yeah.
well? And some people might find it easier than others to recall examples or do this practice often, and it's never about beating yourself up if you don't do it for a day. But what we're saying
Definitely
is
not.
maybe give it a try. We're human after all. We can, we can experience all the envy, we can be cynical, we can just be having a bad day. That's all very human. And I'd say don't be hard on yourself, but be open to looking for even the smallest of examples in those moments and see how it goes. I'm definitely going to try this. And I'm a little bit annoyed with myself, if I'm honest, Kirsty, because I have read up on this kind of thing before, but it's one of these things that can easily get forgotten. And I'll be honest, it's probably because I hadn't really thought, how might I make this into a practice? If I read about it, yes, I can definitely think of something.
Hmm.
But if I don't encourage myself to do something with it on a regular basis, like all habits, they get forgotten, don't they?
Yes. Yeah, the episode on habits as well.
Yes.
We are plugging ourselves big time today, aren't we doing well?
Yes. We have a whole catalogue, to be honest. Well, to be honest, though, we are now in it's our third series. So, there is quite a catalogue coming.
Absolutely. We've got lots to draw on, lots of things that we've talked about. And well, we reckon it's all worth listening to. So maybe the next episode will just be us reading out a list of our episodes in case anyone was interested in going back and finding them. Or maybe not. But back to the point, easily distracted. Yeah, that I have done gratitude journaling in the past, sort of followed challenges or whatever, where you're asked to either write down one thing you're grateful for or a certain number of things. And that's a really interesting thing to do, especially if it's more than one thing and you're not allowed to repeat.
Oh,
And also having to explain it, and not just as we talked about before, not just I'm grateful for the roof of my head. Why are you grateful for that? What does it do for you? How does it make you feel? When you really start digging into it, it's a nice feeling. And it also, if you have to find, 5 things a day for a week or whatever, obviously you do the obvious things first, things that come to mind. But even digging into those to be a bit more specific about what they do for you changes how you see them. And then you've got to start looking deeper and actually seeing more and more positive things in your life to find it. I mean, even something like running water. Can you imagine going to the tap for a drink of water and nothing coming out? It's little things that we take for granted all the time, and yet there are millions of people in the world who don't have that. So that practice is really helpful. Even if you're not doing it daily, to spend a week or something trying a practice like that, I think can shift the way you think about it and change how likely you are to sort of do it just in your own head as you're going along.
yeah.
And also if you're struggling, I mean I think we've read this a bit earlier. Try looking at being grateful for some of the things you didn't do or don't have. It could be that you're grateful you haven't got the stinking cold that the person on the bus had that you sat as far away from as you possibly could. It
Yeah.
could be feeling grateful that you didn't tell that colleague exactly what you thought of them. Um, so you don't have to be incredibly profound about it, I think is what I'm saying.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, be grateful that you didn't open that third packet of biscuits when you'd already eaten the first two. It's there's always something.
Oh, yeah. Well, be grateful there's still a third packet left tomorrow. There you go. That's
I
that's
like
another way to look at
that.
it.
See, we're good at this.
I'd always be very sad if I opened cupboard there was just no packets there at all. That would be
That is a sad feeling, isn't it? At that point, you have
but
to be grateful that you did have biscuits to eat and that you enjoyed them.
yes. And be
That
grateful that I can just easily
that's
replace them. Let's be honest, because
very true.
we can do that. So
Yeah.
so there we go. I know we've ended on some very light touch, and of course there will be some more profound examples, but I honestly think there might be something in this as a small tool that's worth adding to our little sort of life kit bag. Because if those
Mm,
benefits that we mentioned are anything to go by, then I can't think that it's not worth a try. And if you think about it,
yeah.
would you rather be focusing on something that's giving you an element of positivity or rather than looking for the negatives? Because we know that as we go into adulthood, we do have a more negative skew on life. We have it's called negative bias, I think. You
Mm,
have a slightly more negative filter on because you've had life's knocks and things by that point. You haven't got quite the same sort of optimism and hope that you do in childhood. It's not to say that it's not there entirely, but there is more of that negative experience that does come in and clouds our picture. So we can find things to be ungrateful for
very
very, very
easily.
easily,
Yeah.
can't we? It's the same as it's why you might see that someone's more likely to leave a negative review of a restaurant because they have had perhaps not great experience than perhaps be bothered to write the really positive one of the
Mm,
one that they really enjoyed. So I suppose you could say this kind of activity is just trying to redress the balance,
yeah.
actually. So it's not about toxic positivity. There you go. That's another
Another
episode
episode.
we've done. Yeah. It's not about doing that, but maybe it is a little bit about redressing that slight negative skew that we can have. So, on that note, I do have a blog. I'll put a link to that in the resources. Clearly, I need to reread it myself. But let's share some quotes that we found on this subject. And I do like this one. It says, "Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember that what you now have was once among things you only hoped for." That's
Brilliant.
Epicurus. Yeah, and it's interesting because it does mention there about not having desire for things. And I wouldn't say we necessarily totally agree with that, but it's not to the detriment of acknowledging what you do have. I think that's ultimately the message with that one, isn't it?
Yes, I think it's possible to do both, to want
Mm,
more and to appreciate what you've got, to be genuinely
yeah,
grateful for it. Yeah, I Brené Brown, always a good source of quotes. Um,
always.
Always. I don't have to chase extraordinary moments to find happiness. It's right in front of me if I'm paying attention and practicing gratitude. I like that idea that you can lift the ordinary into something extraordinary by such a simple practice and mindset shift.
Yeah. I like this one. We can complain because rose bushes have thorns,
Mm.
or rejoice because thorns have roses. That's by somebody called Alphonse Carr. Just talking about sort of that redressing the balance there, acknowledging the good and the bad together. Not
Yeah,
that,
it's all
yeah,
about perspective, isn't it? And that's
exactly.
such a simple but powerful way of looking at it. And then I mean, we said it doesn't have to be profound. I think this quote is quite profound and emphasizes that aspect of it. But this is from John Milton. Gratitude bestows reverence, allowing us to encounter everyday epiphanies, those transcendent moments of awe that change forever how we experience life and the world. Which would probably have been a bit more profound if I could say transcendent. But, it is what it is. We are mission
It is
imperfect after all.
exactly. And finally, I really like this one because we've talked about this idea of it being some kind of practice of some kind, no matter how you do it. I like this one. Feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it.
Oh,
That's by somebody called William Arthur Ward. And I liked that. It's not necessarily saying who you have to express it to,
mm,
but I think it's just that moment of really acknowledging it and not allowing it to just completely pass you by without you really taking that moment to recognize it. I thought I really like
yeah.
that one. So it's probably no surprise that our question today
Go
on
on, guess.
gratitude is a really obvious one. It is, what are you truly grateful for today? And then connected to that, what does it do for you? So you're not just focusing on what it is, It's what does it mean? What's perhaps the feelings associated with it, the emotions? Why why does it matter? So, Kirsty, we haven't prepared for this one. So on the spot, what are you truly grateful for today?
Oh, you are putting me on the spot, aren't you? Well, I'm going back to what you said before about health and being grateful for the health we have, because what I am truly grateful for today is not being in pain. And I've had some teeth issues lately and toothache and so on. And then also then, not last night, the night before, I had something which I think is called a cluster headache that I get every now and then. And I had a really bad night. And it was just so good to sleep last night and to wake up feeling okay and to not have any of that discomfort or pain. And I think the word that came to mind about how it makes me feel is lighter. That
Mm.
being in pain just sort of weighs you down and slows you down. And it just made me think about, there are so many people who live with pain all the time. Huge respect to them. Um, and so yeah, today I'm just feeling incredibly grateful for that sense of lightness that is actually my normal, but I get to really appreciate it today. And the fact that I was going to say I can think straight, that's probably not true. I can think a bit straighter than I was thinking. It, it being in pain takes up so much headspace.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's me. I very, very grateful to not be in pain today.
Do you know what? It's just what occurred to me then is obviously when you are in pain, you can't not notice it. But when you're
Yeah,
pain free, you can just easily forget about it. I
yeah.
think that's what it really highlights, doesn't it? When you are pain free as opposed to experiencing pain.
Mm,
So I think that's a really good example. I am grateful today for living where we do because I've already been out this morning just briefly because I was a bit disorganized this morning. Um, but I live up a hill, so I can leave my front door and walk uphill a bit further. And I just get the most lovely view and really big sky, and I can
oh,
see
nice.
some rolling hills opposite. And it's just really beautiful. And it's so
Mm,
simple. And even in all weathers, it's actually quite clear today, so it's quite nice. But I just feel it's like a moment of peace and escape, actually, just to get out, walk around for a little bit. Sometimes I am listening to something, but quite often I'm not. And actually, I try to do a bit of a balance between the listening to something or not, because I think the not just allows me to be and process and get ready
yeah.
for the day. And I also live very close to the sea, which I am extraordinarily grateful for because some time ago I lived quite a long way from the coast, and it was always such a treat to go back to be by the sea. Whereas now I can do it really easily. And I always really like it. There's something I find really calming about just listening to the sea
Yeah.
and just being by it. It's
Soothing,
it's
isn't
really
it?
nice. So I am very grateful to live where I do.
Oh, that's lovely. I'm getting a little bit of envy now, which is not really in
It's lovely.
keeping with the episode. But I'm thinking I am grateful for where I live because I don't have those benefits, but I do have the little shop around the corner that is open pretty much all the time. So biscuits are always available. So I'm very grateful for that too.
Excellent. Yeah, imagine the day you get there and it's shut. You're like, oh.
Don't spoil it, Catherine. Don't spoil
No, sorry, I'm not going to spoil it.
it.
We're grateful that it's there. So let's just repeat that question for everyone. What are you truly grateful for today? Maybe give it a go. Maybe say it, write it, even try this for a week or so. And do
Yeah.
you notice anything shift in your thinking and your mood from doing so? And we're probably going to try and give it a go ourselves, aren't we? See how we get on.
Yeah. And if you've got feedback, you can find both of us on LinkedIn,
Yep,
Catherine
our
Ball
details are all
and
in the
Coaching
notes.
by Kirsty. Yeah. And I'm also on Instagram if that's where you prefer to hang out. Let us know how you get on and what difference it makes. We'd love to know.
Brilliant. And on that note, we will see you again next week for another episode.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Mission Imperfect.
Please visit the show notes for details on how to contact us and for any resources we may have on the topic discussed.
Until next time, keep being imperfectly you. No one does it better.